Good evening and welcome to the 101st edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky. And in Maryland, my partner, longtime friend, and esteemed colleague, John Webster. How are you, John?
Hey, Gary. Doing good, man. I hope everybody out there is doing well. Also, want to say hi to our traffic cop, the one, the only, John Pitt.
What's
Hey,
going on,
John.
guys?
All right, man. We couldn't get it done without you, man. So we're about to start on our second 100 here. I'm
That's
looking
right.
forward to it.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Gary, in mentioning that, I want to take a second to recognize two tributes, two videos that were sent to us that unfortunately we were unable to get them on the air last week, but they will be part of our compilation and part of the testimonials as we go forward. Thank you to Reverend Dr. Jesse Clay for the kind words he has said about the Daily Deuce. And also thank you to Brian Moore, athletic director at Parkdale High School, the one and the only Parkdale High School, home of the Panthers. Brian, thank you very much for the kind words. God bless both of you, and hopefully y'all be able to keep on watching us and join us. And we hope to have you all back on again really, really soon.
Hey, to my friends from the Daily Deuce, congratulations on your 100th episode. Gary Graves, John Pitt, and my man John Webster, you guys have done an amazing job. I just want to say I'm grateful to be a part of your first 100 and much success in your next 100. Keep up the enthusiasm, keep up the energy, keep up the sense of humor, and definitely keep up those great interviews. You guys have done an awesome job. God bless.
Hey, John. This is Jesse. Apparently, I missed the opportunity to give some kudos to your 100th episode. And so I'm just giving you some feedback. Great show. The Daily Deuce in your team of competent and knowledgeable co-anchor and the traffic cop. So we're excited about your 200th episode. You and I go back a little ways. Thank God for you. And just wanted to share just something after the fact. All right. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's weird. We're at that point in the year where sports is kind of hard to come by because really only one season's going on, and that's Major League Baseball. And at a game we could be talking about is in a rain delay in Baltimore between the Reds and the Baltimore Orioles. We can talk about that later about those two teams. But right now, I guess in the absence of everything else, we're only a few days removed from the NBA draft, and there were, some things went according to plan. Some things were a surprise, but I'll tell you what, the two takeaways I got from at least the first round of the draft is that the G League is a factor. And I think that's probably, we're going to be talking about that a little bit more in the next few years, as I think more players gravitate toward there, maybe as opposed to college. And of course, Wemby being the number one overall pick, that was no surprise. Everybody describes him as a generational talent. We'll see, but I think everything that I've seen on him so far, and really hearing him, his temperament, just his approach to things, he reminds me a little bit of Tim Duncan. Just having that kind of humility for the process. And there's still a growing process for him. So we'll see how that turns out. John, what did you think?
It was well, I want to say a predictable draft. There wasn't a lot of craziness that happened. I think some of those things that were different were the trades, which we can get to in a little bit. But as
Yeah.
far as Wembyani, I think going to San Antonio is probably the best place. I won't say the best, but one of the best places for him. I think San Antonio will be able to have a foundation in place to to help him continue to grow not only as a player but continue to develop as a young man. I think Popovich is a very good coach. And I just like the whole environment, the whole culture. You look back at it, where it was Tim Duncan or David Robinson or Kawhi Leonard or Parker or Manu Ginobili. It's that kind of environment. It's a constant there, where it's not too high, it's not too low, and they pull together as one. And like I said, I think it's one of the better places he could go. I think San Antonio in the next couple of years, 2 to 3 years, will be a force to be reckoned with. I think the kid, I think he's a very good player, but I also think there's some development that needs to happen. And there's also a growing scale where people have to be patient and let him grow. And like I said, I've said it 3 times, I think this is one of the best places he could be. Brandon Miller, I think he went to the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, number 2.
I think he's a very talented player, but I also think that Charlotte right now as an organization is in flux with Michael Jordan selling his shares of the Hornets. So you had Mitch Kupchak there, but the question is, does Mitch Kupchak stay? If Mitch Kupchak does not stay, will the person who comes in really want Brandon Miller? I think Brandon Miller, for me, I think he's very good, but for me, it remains to be seen what he will be as a pro. The kid Scoot Henderson, there's a lot of anticipation with him. You mentioned the G League. I think he came out of the G League, just like the Thompson twins, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So I
back-to-back picks too.
Yeah. So, but to me, it was a pedestrian draft, Gary. It was nothing really out of the ordinary that happened. The only thing that really was a little bit off. The kid from Villanova, forget his name. He ended up going 20, and he was predicted as a top 8 pick. Forget the kid's name. He went to Houston.
Cam Whitmore.
Yeah. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
That I really saw. Like I said, the bigger, where the things got really interesting were the trades.
Yeah.
The Celtics have Porzingis. The Celtics have become bigger. They've also have a rim protector. And they also have somebody that would be good with Tatum and Brown on a pick and pop.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to somebody today, a good friend of mine, about the Celtics. He likes the Celtics as I do. Honestly, he feels a lot better about the trade than I do, Gary. I say Porzingis had a good season, but he was playing with the Wizards in a lot of games that really did not matter. The Wizards are the Wizards. And, my question is,
no argument there.
Yeah. My question is, what you saw Porzingis do this year, and he had high stats as far as points per game, points in the block, all this stuff. Can he do it for 65 to 75 games with the Celtics in pressure-packed situations? Let's not fool ourselves, Gary. There was not a lot of pressure situations playing for the Wizards.
No.
That was not pressure.
And it won't be for a long time. And,
right.
Especially now with this team in a full rebuild and again, and who knows how long that's going to last. And And only thing out of that, I just foresee the Wizards being right back in the lottery again next year, unless something drastic really happens, and Jordan Poole makes everybody better around him. I just don't see it happening. But
They
it's hard.
they need to be in the lottery, but they need a very high pick in the lottery. They need a top 2 or 3 pick. They I think the only way, a lot of people in this area don't want to see a total rebuild because you got a total rebuild right now, the Washington Nationals. Basically, you're getting ready to get another rebuild with the Washington Capitals. And now you have this with the Washington Wizards. But in my opinion, with the Wizards, the only way they can get better is they had to tear it down. They were holding on to Bradley Beal. They finally let him go. Porzingis is gone. Kuzma's gone. And they did something really good. And this is the move that I think is very important. They had Chris Paul. They traded him before the season. Why do I say that's important, Gary? If you look at Chris Paul's history, the majority of the teams, I can't say every, but the majority of the teams he's been with in the regular season, they have been very competitive or have improved from the season before he got there.
Mm-hmm.
The concern that you have with Chris Paul is not the regular season. He makes teams better. He makes people around him better. The concern is when he gets injured in the playoffs. It's not something he wants to have happen, but it happens. So I think that was good because what would have happened? The Wizards would have been competitive. Ted Leonsis would have got a taste of maybe being close to the playoffs. And this rebuild, I don't think would have happened because they would have made a run for the playoffs. And that's a false illusion. They would have done it, been a 6th or 7th seed, going out in the second round, and now everybody down there where the Wizards play are talking about, oh, we're ready to make a run for the championship. No, they're not. So I think that was a good move. They got Chris Paul to Golden State. I don't think Golden State is done.
Oh,
I
not
think
by any
there's
stretch. No.
I think there's another move coming, and I will be in the minority with the next thing I say. Phoenix now having Beal, Durant, and Booker, they are not, in my book, a contender for the championship because they have given so much away. They're going to have minimum salary for players on the bench and rest around them. I don't know what they're going to do with Ayton. That's still up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
I think Phoenix this year is a 45-win team. They're going to be exciting to watch because Booker's going to be able to put up points. Durant's going to be able to put up points. Beal's going to be able to put up points. The thing is, they're just going to take turns putting up points. They don't have a team. They just have
They've
some
got
guys that
scores,
can
and that's
score.
it. They've got scores, and that's it. And in terms of Paul with Golden State, or wherever it is he's supposed to land. I guess he is with Golden State.
He's there right now. He's
Yeah,
there.
and I think, like you said, Golden State's not done by any stretch. Depending on what happens with Draymond Green, whether they can retain him. I saw a couple of stories today that that there are a couple of suitors in the mix that he's interested in. But I still think at the end of the day, he's in a Golden State uniform come fall. That the core of that team remains intact, and then you have Chris Paul hopefully coming off the bench and hopefully getting that load management, so there'll be something left in the gas tank come playoffs.
Gary, you know what, Gary? You know what would have made more sense to me?
What's that?
If Golden State had traded Poole to the Wizards and traded him to the Wizards with 2 picks, and then they in return would have got Porzingis and Paul. That would have made more sense to me for Golden State.
Yeah.
Because
but where does Porzingis? Where do you think he would fit in there with that style? And that's really no dig at Porzingis. It's just the kind of team he'd be going to, because I think he's a better fit in Boston personally. I like that trade more than you do. just because what I think they can get out of him up there.
Well, the next thing I say is I just think he's more of a finesse player, Gary. And I think his finesse will be better suited in the West as opposed to the aggression in the East. I think I said it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, one last takeaway, and like when we talked about I think it was 4 of the first 5 picks were from club teams, including 3 from the G League. The Thompson twins being among them, and that was indicative of one budding trend, I think, where again the G League will probably be one of those. Will be a place where teams really start looking for talent. Club teams overseas, France, wherever, they're going to look there. College, I still think college will be part of it, but I just think they're going to probably it's probably going to take a secondary role to club teams now, where there's just no pretense about these guys that are in the G League that have potential, and just didn't want to really go to college, so to speak. And also, that one thing, remember 2 guys that were not drafted, Drew Timme and Oscar Sheboy, 2 All-American players, a former National Consensus Player of the Year. Let's not forget that. Big guys, and they went undrafted. They had to sign free agent contracts. That to me was peculiar from a number of standpoints. One of which being, you've got 2 big men that could probably fit in. Whatever questions you might have about their durability or their adaptability to the league, you still can't coach height, and they would have fit in somewhere. Especially, I feel like Sheboy, he signed a 2-way contract with the Indiana Pacers. He's something of a rim protector. I mean, we all know about his rebounding. Saw a little bit of his shot blocking, but he might be a rough diamond. I don't know about Timme, but he's another guy that you just can't coach that kind of height. And it's just kind of weird that no team would even take a chance on them in the 2nd round. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, Timme ended up going to the Bucks. And I think, Gary, what you see right now is you and I would be considered dinosaurs, because the way they play the basketball game now, which I think basketball, like anything else, is cyclical. And right now you're going through a cycle of playing 3 guards, 4 guards, spacing the floor. You get away from a traditional power forward. But I think that's going to start coming back. I think what's going to help it come back is what Denver did winning the NBA championship, because they were more conventional. The Golden State, they won. There's Klay Thompson, there's Steph Curry, there was Jordan Poole. You space in the court. You have Draymond Green handling the ball as a point forward. But I think the Sheboy player and the Drew Timme player, in a couple more years, I think it's going to be back to where it used to be. Because, again, it's a cyclical process, Gary.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. Yeah. And that was one point that I wanted to make, because, it's like the trend in the NBA is kind of like the weather. If you don't like it, wait 15 minutes and it'll change. So, man, let's move on to the nation's pastime. At least it's still a nation's pastime for us 2 old head baseball lovers. You were, before we went on, you were talking about the Orioles and the Reds being in the rain delay. Here in these parts, just up the road in Cincinnati, the Reds and the Braves had a really fun series to watch on TV for those that can get it on TV. But that guy Ellie, I'm telling you, he just continues to amaze. He hit for the cycle on Friday night, and it was just something to behold, to watch him. And the weird part is that twice he was like this close to having a 3 home run game. One turned into a double, which opened the door for him to hit for the cycle, which he did in the next one. And that one was pretty close to being a home run too. So as impressive as it is that 2 weeks into his major league career, that he's already hit a 460-foot home run almost out of the park, and now has hit for the cycle and made it look easy. You have to watch him play to really appreciate just how good he is. That's a great thing for the Reds, who have won 11 of 12 or 12 of 13, and they're in first place, which nobody, myself included, saw coming. That's the one thing that might be right now the story of baseball at this point. I mean, the Orioles, I think, are competitive. They're another great story. The fact that these two teams are meeting this week, I think, is fun. John, I hope you get up the road to watch it, and if not, whatever Masson deal is in place for the Orioles, that you at least watch it there.
Well, I was watching it earlier, right? Like you said, they're in a rain delay right now. It's the third inning, the Orioles up 2-1. What's the guy? Was it Dela Cruz?
Yeah, Ellie Dela Cruz. Yeah.
Yeah, Dela Cruz. Unbelievable talent. The thing I want to say about Cincinnati, think about this, Gary, and you're right down there with it. Just a month ago, they were getting 7,000 fans a game. And this weekend, you couldn't find a seat.
Mm-hmm.
And Cincinnati is a wonderful baseball town. You go back to the Big Red Machine with Johnny Bench, and then come forward a little bit when Dusty Baker was there and got them to the playoffs. Go back with Lou Purnell when he won a World Series with them, upset the Oakland A's. They're a wonderful, wonderful organization as far as winning games.
Well, historically winning games.
Yeah. And I say winning games, talking about them as a team that has won World Series and had some very good ball players there. The Orioles, I still have the same concerns I've always had, Gary. The starting pitching, the last couple of days, you got 7 innings out of Bradish yesterday. You got 7 innings out of Kramer on Saturday. That's good. But my concern is Bradish loses concentration. Prime example, yesterday. He has a batter down 0-2. 0-2 turns into a walk, and then they give up 2 runs. Didn't have to happen if he just gone here and got the guy up. Last week against Tampa Bay, they were winning 7-1, 7-2, and then he walked the guy to start the inning, and that's how I got it going. It ended up being an 8-6 game instead of a 8-2 game.
Mm-hmm.
He does a good job, but I just need to concentrate the whole time. And that bullpen, they have to find a left-handed reliever. You have to find it, whether it be Kayum. It's not going to be Perez this year because he's struggling, but you got to find a left-handed reliever. You got the big mountain out there, Batista. You got Cano, but you need something between them, a left-hander that can just get it done. But I still love my Orioles, man. Still love them. I got a great opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it. Dante and I are going to the Orioles game on July 19th. They're going to be playing the Dodgers. I'm absolutely positively excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, enjoy it, man. I'm going to try to get up to a couple Reds games here in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I really did want to see this Braves series because I wanted to see Dela Cruz in person. But and of course, the fear around these parts, particularly in Cincinnati, is how long before they unload all this talent? Will they unload this talent before July 31st? It's like, as much as people are enjoying it here, there's this pessimistic attitude really put in place by management, with low expectations that the owner set last year. Like, okay, what else are you going to watch? We're going to lose games, but what else are you going to watch? And people basically said, that's not acceptable. And they didn't come. As you pointed out, 7,000 fans just over a month ago for games. They call this kid up, and now you can't find a ticket. It's a great turnaround, but the worry here is how long does it last? If they can keep it together, if they remain committed to this core as it is, as well as they're playing. David Bell really has them playing great baseball right now. They're in first place. That's a winnable division for them as long as they can keep it together. Even, their pitching, which I think has been kind of shaky at times, they've been able to get the job done. If they can keep it together, it's going to be fun to watch. The Reds are an entertaining team to watch because they show you enough potential to keep you encouraged, and they also disappoint you with just how many games they just let slip away. That's not happening right now. I'm going to try to ride the wave along with the fans. And like you said about Cincinnati's tradition, and the thing about De La Cruz, I'm going to point out, is if you watch him and really know baseball, as or historians as you and I are, you will see parallels to one Frank Robinson in terms of his swing, his stride. He's got a long stride. That's why he's able to leg out so many extra base hits right now. And when I think about that massive home run that he hit, that thing jumped off the bat so fast. The camera had to pick it up and see where it landed. Just because of how fast it got up and out quickly. But watching that, I was like, holy cow, I'm looking at Frank Robinson, 2.0, and that's something to behold.
Well, could we do a complete Frank Robinson then, Gary? Could we do it completely? If you're seeing Frank Robinson 2.0, could you complete this story by trading him to the Orioles again for somebody like Milt Pappas?
The thing is, the Orioles are in a position to do something now. I don't even know if that management would bite on any kind of offers for him, for a guy like that, if he's available.
The Orioles, the farm system is very strong, which you already know.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of similarities between this Orioles team and the 69, 70, the 70s teams.
Mm-hmm.
Because they build it through the farm system. They don't put a lot of wasted money. They put money where they need it. But the one thing they did back in the day, they knew when they needed to go get a player. So in 66, 67, I think it was 68, they went and got Frank Robinson. They were good, but Frank Robinson pushed them over, made them even better.
Yeah.
And then you had three pitchers. You had Palmer, Cuellar, and McNally. You needed one more. They went and got Pat Dobson. This is what this organization needs to do. I mean, they're right there, Gary. They're right at the cuffs. But you need to make a couple strategic moves. And back to your Cincinnati Reds, as good as they're playing, the management has no choice but to support. No choice. Those fans would have an absolute fit if they turned it over and decided, okay, we're not playing rest of the year, we're going to tank. They're just playing too well. And the division they're in with Milwaukee and Pittsburgh, and I think St. Louis is in that division too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their division to take. It's right there. I mean, St. Louis is, I can't believe how rough of a season St. Louis is having. But Milwaukee and Pittsburgh, they're right there with them. They're in first place by, I think, a game and a half over Milwaukee right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that, the thing I love about baseball right now, the way that it is I don't want to say the have-nots, but let's just look at the small market teams that are atop their divisions. Tampa Bay, Minnesota, well, I can't really call Texas a small market team, being in Dallas, but I mean, they're running away with a division that Houston ran away with last year. Houston has
Mhm.
fallen off the pace a little bit, but it's fun to see other teams get in the mix. How do they get in the mix? Through their farm system, and I think the Orioles and the Reds right now have the two top rated prospects, in the league right now, between Dela Cruz, and I'm trying to remember who the guy is with the
Adley Rushman.
yeah, yeah,
Adley Rushman. Yeah.
yeah.
Matter of fact, the Orioles today,
And Jackson Holiday. That's the one.
Jackson Holiday's still in the minors.
Yeah,
They
but he's a
brought,
top prospect. I'm just
yeah,
saying,
he's
yeah, like
top.
guys on the rise.
They just brought a kid up today to play second base, Westberg,
Mm.
another top prospect, And that's the thing that the Orioles have right now that I think they need to look at. They're so rich in the farm system. They could make a trade and not miss a beat in the farm system. And they need to look at getting a real number one starting pitcher. And they need to look at that very hard and find a
Left-handed arm. That they
huh?
get, and they need a left-handed arm in the bullpen.
I need a left-handed starting pitcher too.
Yeah,
My dream,
yeah.
I would tell you my dream. I've always told Dante this, and he tells me I'm off my rocker. There's a left-handed pitcher I would love to be in Baltimore.
Wait a minute, not the one I'm thinking.
Let me hear who you're thinking.
Wait a minute, hold up. Not Clayton.
Kershaw?
Yeah, Clayton Kershaw.
Yes.
You're kidding,
That's
really?
I'm dead. I'm dead serious. I'm
I
dead serious.
mean, because I mean that was really just a spitball thought, But
Think
I'm
about
not.
it, Gary.
I'm
Think,
not saying it's far fetched. It's just it's weird that we were kind of thinking the same thing on that.
but think about it. You put him in Camden Yards. He's a left-handed pitcher. You have moved right field back out. So now it's not a short porch. It's further out. You got a strong defense around you. He's older, and the Los Angeles Dodgers have other players coming up, and it's a win now organization. Clayton Kershaw does great in the regular season, struggles in the playoffs. The Orioles want to get to the playoffs, so they need somebody to help them get there. Give them 2 or 3 prospects and a player.
Is he your
Because
number one though? And I know that sounds like a crazy question, but is he your number one right now at that
Yes.
age and
Yes.
in that rotation?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you make him, what I've said before, if you get Clayton Kershaw, who is a legitimate number one starter, it puts everybody else in place where they should be. John Means becomes a number 2. Kyle Gibson maybe is a 3 or a 4. Tyler Wells 3 or a 4. Instead of and then you can take Cole Irvin, who is really trying. Instead of having him as a left-handed starter, bring him out the bullpen for an inning or 2.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about this for 2 years, Gary. 2 years I've been thinking about this.
Yeah, again, I was just kind of spitballing on left-handers out there that could work, and I mean, he was just the first one that came to mind. Only reason why I asked that question about is he a number one is because with some of his struggles in recent years, I mean, he is what he is. I believe he's a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure, but with some of his struggles and his advancing age, I see kind of a situation with him like you had with Max Scherzer, who was effective when he was with the Dodgers. Now he's with the Mets. He's struggling with injuries there. I don't even know whether he's even active right now. But the Mets have been a disappointment. And do you kind of peg a lot of your rotational hopes behind him at this point? You make a good point, for doing it. And again, it's just one of those. Look, if the Orioles can pull it off, I think it's a wrap. I think it's a deal closer for them to get into the playoffs because they have just all the things that you mentioned: defense, they've got hitting, enough hitting, that they can get in there. They're not going to be Tampa Bay right now because Tampa Bay really is just too solid. You know what Tampa Bay's biggest weakness is? Their
Yeah,
stadium.
they don't lose. That's their biggest weakness. They don't lose.
No, no. And well, yeah, that and speaking of windows, they're still within their window. If they make it to the World Series, it will be their second one in 4 years. This time, I think they can really get it if they get back because they're just too stocked top to bottom to really blow it. And
And
they're
they have
not
to
afraid.
win.
They're not afraid of the Yankees anymore. Nobody's afraid of the Yankees right now.
The Orioles aren't even scared of.
No, nope.
And the other thing you mentioned about Kershaw, his age, if you keep him 2 years, the real number one that the Orioles want is Grayson Rodriguez. But you can take the time to develop him. He's had some struggles, giving up home runs. You can put him through that minor league system one more time, get him right. A couple years, he's ready to be a number one.
Good point. Good point. Well,
Gary,
look,
as I said, I've thought about this for a long time.
yeah, you've been waiting a long time, John. In all fairness, so yeah, you've had a lot of time to think. But look. I hope these things pan out as we just as we discussed. It's been real fun talking about it. And again, we are in that summer vacation in terms of sports, but baseball is still there. We can talk about it. Let's see what happens. John, it's been fun. It seems like the time always goes too quick when we start delving into some of these subjects. Great way to start off our second 100. And hey, man, just enjoy, whatever games you can get up to. And I would tell everybody, tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody who loves sports, watch us on Facebook, watch us on YouTube. Hey, we'll even email you a link if you need it. John, take it from there, man.
Hey, it's been another fast moving show. I've really enjoyed it as always being with you and Pitt, Gary. You all watch some sports this week. I know I'm going to sit back and watch some sports. I'm going to take a little time off and hang out with Miss Webster for our anniversary.
All right, happy anniversary, man.
Thank you. I'm going to watch a little bit of sports. I'm going to still get it in, whether it be some football. USFL's over now. Whether it be some baseball, a little bit of Gold Cup soccer, like John Pitt likes to see. Or maybe we'll have some more NBA because free agency is going to start up later on this week. There's always going to be some sports we can talk about. Y'all take care, and we'll see you again real soon.